Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan with the Laundromat Resource Podcast. This is show 64, and I'm pumped you're here today because today we're talking with Shawn Dandridge, and this was an incredible conversation. I mean, this guy went from basically, essentially being the leader of the free world to owning a laundromat, and tells you the story of how he got there. It was really, really fascinating. He had a lot of really great stuff to share. And his process has been insane. And I think you're really going to enjoy it, get a lot out of it. Cannot wait for you to meet him. And in fact, I think it's going to spawn a new, maybe short series podcast talking about his experience in politics, because I just found that super fascinating, and we might actually get together and talk about his story and what that was like. Not here on this podcast, but stay tuned just in case you're interested after you listen to this podcast, because I think you might be. He's a really, really fascinating guy. Okay, well, we'll get to Shawn here in a second, but real quick, I wanted to let you know that our sponsor here for this episode is AtmosphereTV. You'll hear about that in a second. But I just want to let you know that Mike Kelly from AtmosphereTV, who's a previous podcast guest, he and I are going to be doing a webinar together about AtmosphereTV, what it can do for your business, how it really can improve your business, and how he can do it all with no upfront cost from you. And it's incredible. I love AtmosphereTV. If you're not using it and you own a laundromat or multiple laundromats, you should be using it. So come check out this webinar if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about AtmosphereTV. And not only that, but we're going to talk about atmosphere of your laundromat in general and how to create a good, positive vibe in your laundromat and how that can translate to more and better business for you. So make sure you check that out. You can register at laundromatresource.com. On the top of the homepage, you can go to laundromatresource.com/events, register for it there. So make sure you join us. It's going to be a really good time. And just be there, especially if you don't have AtmosphereTV yet. Come hear what it's all about. And he's got a great offer for you where basically you can get one for free. So we'll talk about that at the webinar, but come join us and check it out, see what it's all about. Okay, I got to take 1 second to stop and say a huge thank you to Stephen Clayton, who sent me a shirt. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. Says peace, love, and the Laundromat Resource, and the Laundromat Resource logo is in there. It's awesome. Huge shout out and thank you to Stephen Clayton for that. And a big shout out to the anonymous gifter who sent me the Rage Against the Washing Machine t-shirt. Love it, love it, love it. You'll see that one in a future episode, I'm sure. A lot of fun. So anyways, make sure you are jumping on those forums throughout the week. There's a lot of awesome conversations happening over there all the time. Go introduce yourself in the introductions forum. It's laundromatresource.com/forums. Go introduce yourself over there. Let people know who you are, where you're at in your laundromat journey, where you're located in the world. And who knows, you might make a new best friend over there. I hear that's happening all the time on the introductions forum. And then make sure you go jump in on the conversations on the other forums as well, the laundromat specific one, the real estate one, the financing one, the machine repair forum. We got it all happening over there. So go jump in, be a part of the conversation, meet each other. And I say it all the time, but I truly believe it. We are all going to succeed faster and hit higher heights when we are working together, helping each other out. All right, so that's on the forums. I mean, there's a lot going on. Make sure you're checking us out on YouTube if you haven't done that yet. Check out the blog. I've been blogging every single week, and there are new blog posts coming out every single Thursday. So make sure you check those out. Those are sponsored by Sense. Make sure you check out the webinar with Sense. And I mean, there's just a lot of awesome stuff happening right now. So much good stuff. In fact, that when this happens, man, my brain goes nuts and I just come up with more and more ideas. And so there's more and more coming up on the horizon. Two final things I wanted to let you know about. Very, very big and monumentous in my career, I don't know, is number one this week on the Laundromat Millionaire podcast. I finally have made it in my life, and I am on the Laundromat Millionaire podcast this week. So make sure you check that out. You can just search Laundromat Millionaire in any podcast platform. Go to the Laundromat Millionaire YouTube channel. I'm sure you can find it there. Check out laundromatmillionaire.com. It's all over. If you search Laundromat Millionaire, you will find it. It's coming out this week. And also, speaking of Dave, the Laundromat Millionaire Men's, he and I are doing a live Q&A together on July 28th, which is a Wednesday, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern. This month, it's on my YouTube channel. So make sure you go subscribe over there. And jump in on the live Q&A there. And every other month, we switch off. So we do a live Q&A every single month. And this month happens to be on my channel. Make sure you go to his too and subscribe, because we'll do next month's on his channel. So make sure you're checking those two things out. My featured podcast on the Laundromat Millionaire podcast. Super pumped to be on that. And our live Q&A with me and Dave, the Laundromat Millionaire Men's. And so stay tuned for all that. But without further ado, let's skip the ad read. Come to the Atmosphere webinar instead. Hear what it's all about. Come ask your questions and maybe just come give it a try. Try it out. So that's happening on Thursday. That is July, I don't know, what is it? The 22nd? Something like that, 2021. Yeah, July 22nd, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Come check that out. We'll skip the ad read. Just come to the webinar. Talk with Mike. Talk with me. We're going to have a good time. And you hear all about Atmosphere TV. And also, we'll talk about Atmosphere in your laundromat. All right. Without further ado, I don't think I had anything else. Let's jump into it with Shawn Dandridge, because this is an awesome interview. I know you're going to love it. I know I loved it. Super cool guy. Lots to offer. Let's do it. Shawn, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, my man. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm awesome. I'm really excited. You know, we chatted just a little bit and you promised some good stories. So I'm really excited. I always love a good story. Really excited to hear about your experience with laundromats and to hear how you're like a little, like somewhere around a year in. Is that right?
Well, actually, not even a year. I bought my laundromat in January 31st of this year. So literally about 7 months or so in. So not even a full year yet.
All right, good. Well, you know what? If there's anything that I know, it's that 7 months in laundromats, you can accumulate quite a bit of experience.
It has seemed like a lifetime.
It can seem like a lifetime. You're right. So, but before we get into that story and all of that, I want to hear a little bit about you. Can you give us a little bit of backstory about you and who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Shawn Dandridge. I'm currently in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, Arlington to be exact. Was in the Army for about 10 and a half years, deployed to Iraq a couple of times. I got a Bronze Star, one of those deployments.
Right.
Worked at the White House for about 5.5 years. So I was a White House aide to President Obama. My background is IT. So I did worldwide communications for the president, the vice president, cabinet members. So.
Okay, well, hold on, time out. I didn't know.
I told you I was an interesting guy.
I just got super nervous all of a sudden. I didn't know you were such a big deal here. I got nervous. Oh, man. All right, well, I don't know. Well, listen, you can't just drop something like that. We got to talk about that for just a minute. Can you tell us about maybe your experience working in the White House? And thank you for your service, by the way. And, you know, we really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Not a problem.
That does for us and in our country. But tell us a little bit about working in the White House. What was that like?
It's a very interesting place. It never slows down. It never stops. There's always something to do and always somewhere to be. Like I said, I did communication. So the team or the organization I was with is actually called WACA. It stands for White House Communications Agency. So basically, we travel all over the world in support of the president and the vice president and cabinet members. I actually worked at Camp David. So when the president would be on Air Force One or anywhere away from the White House, we were responsible for ensuring that he could connect with world leaders and the command and control of the United States, wherever he may be.
Wow. Okay. Okay, man. I mean, you're just making me more nervous than I already was. That's pretty cool. I mean, essentially what you're telling me is that our country stops to function if it's not for what you did during those years. That's what I'm hearing. There's no communication. We're done for if it wasn't for you.
If the president cannot talk, we're in trouble. So I would say that's an accurate statement.
So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, basically you ran the country is what
in a quasi type of way.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it outright. You ran the country and you're on the podcast. I love it. Wow, that is crazy. Okay. So, I mean, this begs the question in my mind then, how do you get from the White House to laundromats? How did this happen?
So I got out of the Army in April of 2016. I moved to Dallas. For years, my wife always had this thing with like laundry. She's like, oh man, we need to start this laundry business. You know, we can pick up people's clothes and wash them and do all this stuff. I was like, okay, you're kind of crazy. I don't want to do that.
Did she not know that you were basically the most powerful person in the world at the time?
I don't think she cared. She still doesn't care.
Sounds like my wife. I don't know. Okay. That's fair.
So, of course, I didn't know about the whole, the technical terms, the pickup and delivery and the wash and fold. I was just like, okay, she wants to go to people's houses and pick up their clothes and wash them. That sounds crazy. There's no money in that. So after years and years and years, I finally relented and I was like, okay, we'll try it. So we did it and we actually did very well. But what we found out is we contracted with a local laundromat. But what we found out is if you don't control the entire supply chain of actually owning the laundromat and owning the processes, it's never going to work. So It started out pretty good, but as we got bigger and grew, it very rapidly failed because we didn't control the critical piece of the laundromat.
Can you tell me a little bit about, because I get this question a lot, is can you start without a laundromat doing exactly what you guys did? Can you tell me some of the struggles you guys had doing it that way?
I would say the easiest thing was actually finding a laundromat to do it. I mean, we have several laundromats and they were already doing it. So it was just kind of like, hey, can you give me a corporate rate type deal if I bring in X amount of pounds every week? Mm-hmm. But the biggest part was finding reliable workers to actually pick up the laundry and drive. That was the biggest thing. And we were scaling so quickly that we just could not find reliable people. And then my wife started law school and I had a full-time job. So it quickly went bust just because of logistical things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I think that those can be difficulties, whether you have a location or not, especially right now when there's, we're in middle of 2021 and, it's labor is tough right now, kind of all across the board, not just in our industry, but across the board. So, yeah,
but I also think the biggest thing is obviously we knew nothing about the laundry industry. So we were kind of learning on the job and learning with our own money. So that was a very eye-opening experience as well.
Yeah. So would you suggest people get into the business that way? Or would you say, hey, you know what, you're way better off saving your money and buying a laundromat and doing it that way?
Like I said, I think you're at a significant disadvantage if you don't own the laundromat. So I personally would not recommend people go that route to get into the business because you're kind of at someone's mercy along the entire chain of the process, other than, having a website and having a phone number where to pick up laundry. But other than that, you don't control anything else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know that is tough. We had a guy, Mark Vlaskamp, who's actually also in Texas, who him and his buddies started that same way. And they've scaled crazy amounts. And, last I talked to him, they were looking for a location for the exact same reasons, because it just didn't make sense anymore for them to do it the way they were doing it. So can be difficult for sure. Okay. So your wife pestered you and then promptly started law school. And that fizzled at that point. Did you guys stop doing the business or did you continue? What happened?
We continued for a while. I also have a full-time job. I'm an IT manager at a publicly traded company. So I really couldn't do both. She couldn't do both. So it kind of slowly fizzled out from there as we both got a little busier. But always in the back of our minds, we were like, man, that was a good idea. We just need to control more of the process. So that kind of, after I relented and I saw that, okay, this can make some money. The laundry business is okay. I just always kind of kept my eye out for laundromats and, signed up for business mailing lists from different brokers and stuff. And that's kind of how I got into owning a laundromat. Just so happens one day I got an email for a laundromat about 45 minutes from me. It was a complete dump. The guy just wanted to get out. I went over there and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So that's how I bought my first laundromat.
Holy cow. Okay. So you had just talked to a bunch of brokers and eventually somebody brought you a deal that was close enough and made sense enough for you to pull the trigger. Is that how you found it?
Well, this broker, I got an email from a broker. I honestly didn't know the broker, never talked to him. Don't even know how he got my email address, but it was a laundromat. Like I said, it was run down. It had about 8 machines working in there. And I was like, okay, I think this is what I've been waiting for. So I'm just going to do it without even knowing much about laundromats in general. I just decided, okay, this is what I'm going to try.
Okay. So, all right. But I mean, here's what I just heard you say is this laundromat was run down. It had barely 8 machines working. And I said, this is what I've been waiting for and what I've been looking for. What was it about this place that was falling apart? That was what you were looking for. What made you say, yes, this is the one?
When I got there, when I first pulled up, I immediately turned across the street and there was an entire apartment complex. I drove down the street. There was 3 more apartment complexes, and a gentleman on the outside of the laundromat told me, he's like, hey, none of those apartments have washer and dryer hookups. So at that point, I was like, I know I can make this work. Whatever's going on inside, I'm sure I can fix it. I can make that work. If there's 500 apartment units within a walking radius and they have no washer and dryer hookups. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my determining factor without even delving much into anything else.
Yeah, good. Okay. So what was the process like buying it? Was it easy? Did you just kind of be like, okay, we'll take it and that was it? Or did you go through a process of evaluating it at all? Or did you not bother because it was so run down?
Well, I did do some due diligence. The guys, they were kind of selling it, I guess, as is what they called it. So they had some numbers. I wouldn't say the books were very good because when I actually took ownership and and got in there, the first week was significantly lower than the average week of the numbers they gave me, which I kind of expected because I've done real estate and other things. So the numbers are never what the owners say. They're always much more rosier than what they actually are. So I negotiated on price and discounts for that because I just knew, just based on how it looked, I knew you weren't making the amount of money that you were telling me you were making. Right.
So did you negotiate after you had made your initial offer, or when in the process did you negotiate that?
It was pretty much at the beginning. When I saw it, they told me what they wanted. And I just straight up told the guy, I'm not giving you that. I'll give you probably 60% of this, because mainly 30% for potential and 30% for the equipment that's there that's actually functioning.
Right.
So.
Okay. So you negotiated this deal, got it at a deep discount. What did you replace equipment? Did you put some new stuff in, use stuff, leave it as is? What'd you do?
So the first day I got there, they they had like I honestly still to this day don't know what they were trying to do. Maybe create like a little grocery store on the side or something. So the place was filthy. Like I've never seen a place more dirty in my entire life. So the first thing I did was hire a cleaning company to come in there and like just get all of the years of lint and dust and all of that stuff. Yeah, just everything. And even just by doing that, people were like, whoa, did you do anything different in here? It looks different. I was like, no, all I did was clean.
Sweat. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done anything else, I promise you. After that, like I said, it was only 7 or 8 machines working, and they just needed a good cleaning. But the interesting thing that I saw was, even though the place was run down, it only had 7 or 8 machines, people would still come in there and do laundry. And I'm like, I would never come in here and do my laundry. But that just tells me that there is a significant need for a laundromat in this area, even though there's a huge one up the street and another one a couple of miles away. In this area right here, this is the only laundromat that people can actually walk to if they don't have a car from these apartment buildings.
Right.
So that really caught my attention and piqued my interest.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, does it still only have 8 working machines in it, or?
Now we're closed. I decided, I don't know if you're familiar, but in Texas, we had this major storm in February where they turned off all the power and all that stuff. So during that time, I had pipes that burst and all types of things, but the plumbing was already like crap. It was one of the workers, when I walked in there, they actually told me, hey, when you came in here and did an inspection with the plumbers, the guys turned off the water so you wouldn't see the leak. So the previous owners, but immediately when you walk in, you see the entire floor is wet behind the washer. So there's a leak somewhere, even though water isn't leaking. So everything was rusted out, leaking. So the storm was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it kind of solidified, hey, in order to make this work, I need to get in here. I need to rip all this stuff out. I need to redo the plumbing. I need to, make it look nicer, build a new office for wash and fold service. There was really no office. It was kind of like a rundown closet that they had. So the building I completely gutted the building, reframed it, put new AC units in there. The place hadn't had AC for like 15 years. The lady told me that worked there. So got new equipment, went through Laundry Lux, Electrolux for new equipment. So all new equipment. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Just going through I wouldn't say a full remodel, but a pretty big remodel to get things up and working.
Yeah,
the way it should be.
Sounds like it. I mean, you're trying to rival Ross Dodds here, who came on the podcast, and his laundromat burned down after, I think, 5 days of owning it or something like that.
Oh,
wow. But I mean, your pipes basically burst a month after you bought it, right?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh gosh. Well, if it makes you feel any better, Ross now has like 1,000 laundromats, and he and I are buying laundromats together and stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ross. I'm on the laundromat owners message boards. I always love his stories about his wrecked vehicles. So I am definitely a Ross fan, and I am looking forward to meeting him one day.
Oh yeah, he would love it. He listens to every episode, so he'll hear this, and I'm sure he'll reach out. That's good. That's, if you haven't, I'll put in case you listen to this and you want to hear Ross's story, which is pretty crazy. It's probably time to have him back on, because he's doing a lot of stuff right now. But I'll put the link to his episode just in case anybody wants to hear it in the show notes, or if you're on YouTube, down below in the description. It's worth a listen for sure. Okay, so you bought okay, man, I had no idea. Like, you bought a laundromat, 3 weeks later, the pipes burst, you had to shut it down and basically have to do a gut job. Is that a good summary?
Yes, that is a great summary.
So what's your timeline looking like in terms of reopening now?
But before we get to that question, I want to move back a little bit.
Let's go back.
It's kind of talks about your episode with the distributors. I have. So once I bought the laundromat, I was reaching out to these distributors. My local distributors here, the sales guys, they were okay. I had one, he was Dexter guy. They just about every laundromat in Dallas, for whatever reason, has Dexter's machines. So they've like cornered the market here. Reached out to this guy. He was going to give me a quote. Never heard back from the guy. And I was looking to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The guy wouldn't even give me a quote. I'm like, you don't want to make any money. So that guy, never heard back from our local Dexter distributor in Dallas. Shouldn't be too hard to figure out who he is. There's only one. Then I went over to Hips, my local Hips distributor, heard back from him, but the financing guy there was like, it was weird. It seemed like he was much more interested in how I made my money, even though I have a full-time job. To be quite honest, he was talking to me like I ran like a drug cartel, like I was like Pablo Escobar or something. I'm like, I'm showing you all this proof that this is how I make this money. Yeah. But
do you know who I am? I ruled the world at one point in time.
That didn't click with him.
Yeah.
So, but then I reached out to Laundry Lux and Texas Coin Laundry. They were fantastic. Within a week of reaching out to them, I had a quote. A week and a half later, I had an approval for all the equipment and it was on order. So that was probably the easiest process I've dealt with a laundry distributor in 7 months. So it was definitely night and day between dealing with the other two.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when I got the approval from Laundry Lux, the same day I got an approval from Hips. But,
that's how that works. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, they didn't get a call back.
I know. Still. Well, one of the problems with the distributorship model right now that I didn't even touch on in that episode that you referred to, which I'll put a link to if you're interested in hearing that one, but is the salespeople are assigned territories basically, and they can't sell outside of their territory. So if you're stuck in a location with a bad rep, like, a rep who won't get back to you, or somebody who is obviously just in it for a quick buck and is not there to help you long haul, then basically you either got to suffer with that or you have to go to a different brand because you can't use a different rep. And like you said, in Dallas, there's one rep. So if that guy doesn't get back to you, you can't get that brand of equipment, right? And that's a huge, huge issue, not just for owners, because we get stuck with bad ones if we're unfortunate enough to live in an area where there's a bad rep, but it's also kind of unfortunate for the good reps out there, because there are a lot of really great reps. I've had a few of them on the podcast who I would consider great. JD Dixon would be one. Michael Ambrose would be one. I mean, there's some great reps out there, but they can't help you if you don't live inside the territory that they've been assigned. And that's a pretty big problem, because if you had wanted Dexter, you'd have just been out of luck. So,
right. That's such a broken system, and it is not sustainable over the long term, especially in this hyperinflated technology space that we currently live in. I don't see how that is even sustainable for an additional 10 years personally. I just think that's a dying model.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're probably right. Okay. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that experience, because I get that question a lot too about how do you go about finding distributors or choosing one. Sometimes it's just the only one who will respond to you. If that's the case. But okay. So, all right. So going back to your rebuild, what is your timeline looking like?
So, the equipment should be here within the next couple of weeks, and hopefully I'll be open by the beginning of September.
Okay, awesome. Are you going to be doing, or maybe you haven't thought about this yet, but just out of curiosity, are you going to be doing any kind of grand opening or any kind of promotions to kind of try to win some customers over when you open up?
Yeah, I've kicked around a couple of things, and the thing that I'm kind of stuck on is doing $1 washes for 2 weeks or a month. I think if someone sees a big banner out there that says $1 washes, no matter what machine you pick, that it's kind of hard to turn that down.
Yeah. Yeah, that is attractive, especially, when you have all those apartments right there.
Right. And our favorite guy, Ross, I posted this a similar question, what should I do for a grand opening? He responded. So I'm also getting the Laundry Lux app, and he responded that maybe I should do like a match, whatever you load on the app, do a match. So thinking about doing that too. I never thought about that. So that's a good idea.
Yeah. Luke Williford, who was show 10, which is another classic episode. If anybody hasn't listened to that, that's another one. I'll put a link to it. But he does that. He does a match I think he does it for the first month, I want to say, where however much people load onto there, they'll match it. And it's a huge success for him. I mean, they're pushing 40 laundromats now. So, he and his brother Lee know their stuff and they know what they're doing. And, not a bad team right there to model after. So, yeah. So that's a good one. So, but I mean, I think the dollar wash is equally attractive, for people. You just budget that in.
I'm just thinking mainly, you're gonna, no matter if someone shows up or not, you're still gonna have the same fixed cost. So get them in the door, and hey, look what we got here. It's not the same laundromat that you're used to for the past 20 years. Look, it's actually clean and nice in here now. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for.
And there's no machine, lottery where you put your money in and you're not sure if it's going to work or not. The lights aren't flickering.
I forgot to tell you that they had the first day I walk in, a cat follows me in, and the attendant's like, "Hey, we have a mascot."
There it is.
Like, what? And you can hear customers like, "Oh my God, there's a cat in here." She's like, "Oh, this is the mascot." I'm like, you can't do that anymore. There's no more mascot. That ends today.
That's pretty funny. So yeah, when I was just related side story, when I was retooling my first store, I had come in and in the nighttime after they had ended for the day, and I was cleaning up or whatever, and I kept hearing a sound, and a little kitten had kind of worked its way into one of the bulkheads somehow and was meowing in there. Wow. So we also had a little mascot for a night. It's funny what you can find in London.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious. I mean, I think we need to maybe we should start a thread on that Facebook group, the Laundromat Owners Facebook group, which I'll link to, by the way, that group, because it's a good one. If you haven't joined it yet, you should. Tell Ross I said to let you in, and he'll let you in. But we should start a thread on the craziest animal that people have found in their life.
I would be very curious to see what some people have come across.
Oh yeah, me too. You got to know that some of these rural places have probably had goats or I don't know,
bobcats.
Yeah, exactly. Some kangaroo down under. I don't know, man. There's got to be some stories out there. So maybe we'll start that one. Okay, good. So let's go back. You bought your laundromat. 3 weeks later, you guys had a big storm, blew everything out. You basically decided, hey, I got to retool this whole thing. So what's that process been like so far for you in terms of, redoing all the plumbing? How did you, just out of curiosity, how did you find somebody to come do plumbing?
So like I said, when I first bought it, I had all these leaks. So I had a plumber that I've been working with. He was fixing leaks and stuff for me. And then the copper was totally corroded. Most of the outlets didn't work. It was just, they were like, hey, even before the storm, they're like, hey, you need to replace all of this because this is not going to work. You're just going to continuously have leaks and all this stuff. So I was already thinking about it before the storm, but the storm just kind of, sped up my process because it broke everything. Mm-hmm. So I just Facebook groups, people I knew. I had all these plumbers come out, and of course, none of them had ever dealt with a laundromat. So they're kind of like, I'm like, can you just copy what's here? Just make it new. Like, so kind of started out that way. But I end up going with a guy that actually did some work for me in my house. He owns a construction company because the storm like flooded the first floor of my house. So the guy came in and did all the tile in my house. And I was like, okay, if you could do this, I got another project for you. Come meet me over here one day. So had him come out there. He looked around. He's like, okay, I can do this. He's also in real estate investing. So he's familiar with like, fix and flips type of thing. So, so he's the guy that I contracted to do that. And they got the plumbing done. And so far, so good. It's just they finished the framing yesterday, so it's slowly coming back together. It's looking like a laundromat again instead of empty space with absolutely nothing in it and busted pipes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because, it takes a long time for all of that work, and then it kind of just comes together fast once all the infrastructure is back in place. And it's similar to like a flip, where, you're doing all these things that no one will ever see. And that's what takes a lot of time. And then, once you're kind of putting the finishing touches on, that stuff can go fast. And I know there's been a backlog of the machines too. You've had to order them, and they've taken 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, to get in right now. So that holds things up too.
Yeah, I was told that 6 to 8 weeks. I think it's probably been about a month. So we're coming up on it. So hopefully I'm done by the time the machines get here. That's been my problem. I don't want the machines to be waiting on me. I want to wait on the machine. So I'm kind of in a different situation than most people where they're waiting on the machines. I'm like, please don't get here on time. I won't be finished. But I think we're making good progress, and we should be good by our 1st of September opening timeline.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, so I want to ask some questions about the business. I know you haven't really even been open that much, but I'm just kind of curious about that. But we have a section called Down to Business.
Let's get down to business. Over and out.
Yep.
And that's where we talk about your business. But real quick, I'm just curious, when you bought this laundromat, how much time were you and or your wife spending there for those first few weeks?
So the first 3 weeks I was there just about every single day.
Okay.
And this is probably we opened at 7, and I would probably get there about 10 and stay to close, which is 9:30 or 10 every single day. So, and mainly this is for a few reasons. I had 2 attendants there. There's a lady, she was there for the vast majority of the day, and she was kind of left to her own devices with previous owners. So I think in her head, this was like, this is my laundromat. I'm going to do whatever I want to. So I kind of had to be there to break that cycle. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is my processes. This is how I want it to run. Right. And another thing is we had this change machine. It jammed every single day, and sometimes I would have to go reset it. But the previous owners would like leave the key with the lady that was there. I didn't quite feel comfortable with that. Right. So I would just stay there just to, hey, the change machine's broken, and I can never find anybody to come out and fix the change machine either. So, and other equipment would break, and they would call me in a panic. Oh my God, this machine's broke. I'm like, I don't fix machines. I don't know what to do. Put an out of order sign on it. So just things like that. Just, to kind of mitigate the learning curve, I needed to be there just to, okay, this breaks. Why is it breaking? What is this doing? Why is this like this? So that was mainly the reason I was there so much, just because I didn't know anything. So I had to be there just to learn.
Yeah. So, I mean, were you working from there, or did you take vacation, or because you said you had a full-time job, right?
No, I was doing both. So I was working from there and handling the other stuff on the side.
Whew. I like that. Wait. Okay. I mean, I got to ask the question, wasn't this whole thing your wife's idea? Why wasn't she there?
She was pregnant.
Oh, a cop out. Come on.
Convenient excuse.
Yeah. Convenient. Well, was your baby born yet?
My son was born February 28th. Oh. So 3 weeks or 4 weeks after we bought it, and a week after the storm that ruined everything.
Well, congrats on your son.
Thank you.
Kind of unfortunate timing with everything else that went happen.
Yeah, he didn't pick a great time to come, but he made it work.
You always find a way to make it work.
It's funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, well, congrats. And now that baby is, 4 or 5 months old, I hope you're making your wife slave away the laundromat now.
Well, when we reopen, she's going to be my general manager, she says. So we'll see how that works. Okay. She says she's going to be there and hang out during the day while I go back to work. So yeah, we'll see how that works, and we might have to do a follow-up episode on that one.
Yeah. Well, I would like to hear, if she does, how you made that work, because my wife told me similar things, and I can't remember the last time she set foot in one of our laundromats. So good luck with that. If it works, I will bring her on and make her tell her story. That's right. Yes. That's good. We'll give her kudos. That's funny. Okay. So you've been, you were working there a lot, working from there and being at the laundromat, for pretty much all day, every day for a few weeks there until everything went awry. Which, I don't think that's abnormal. I think a lot of people, when they buy their first laundromat, they want to be there and to help understand what it's all about and how everything works, and, to see, their employees and how they're functioning, all that stuff. So I think it's pretty typical. Long-term, are you planning on being there a lot? What's your game plan with it long-term? Well, one of the main drivers of doing this whole retool remodel is so I wouldn't have to be there all the time. I'm planning to automate a lot of stuff, like with the app and new coin machines and things like that, new machines. So I don't have to be there every waking moment that I'm not at work. So that's not why you do investing, so you can have another full-time job. So, right. So that's kind of where I'm headed. Like I said, after the storm, I figured, okay, if I'm going to get my time back and make some money, this is what I have to do to accomplish that. So that's what I'm kind of working towards with this remodel and new machines and all that stuff. So hopefully it works out, and I can only be there a few hours a week, and my wife will be there a few days a week. So hopefully that works out for us. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it will. That is one of the draws of this business. Just out of curiosity, did your wife ever get her law degree? No. So she got pregnant again. So I have a 2-year-old daughter, and now I have a 4-month-old son. So she's been pregnant for like the past 2 years. So finished the first year, and then she started having kids. So. Well, congrats on that. And she's a trooper then. She is a trooper. She puts up with me, so something special about her. Yeah. Well, she's smart too, because you basically ruled the world for a while. So she locked down a winner. Okay. I'll have to tell her that. Yeah. You know what? You get her on here, and I will just toot your horn for you to her. I love it. Let her know who she's dealing with over here. Yeah, I got your back. Don't worry. I appreciate it. Did you, I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or before, but can you tell us where you're located? I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My laundromat's located in Mesquite, Texas, which is about 15 or 20 minutes from downtown Dallas. Sounds very barbecue-y, Mesquite, Texas. Yeah. I like that. Yep. Okay. So you're there, and you have one laundromat. Do you have any real estate still?
No, I don't have any real estate. I had about 4 or 5 rental properties that I sold once I moved to Texas, and I was kind of out of state, so I couldn't really manage them the way I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So I started in real estate, but did fix and flips, buy and hold. So kind of did that, and then I got into this crazy laundry industry.
Yes, that's what I like to hear.
So there are a lot of similarities between the two industries, funny enough. So I can see how people go from one or the other, because there's a lot of things that are very much alike.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the things that really draws me to this business. And I think it's, I think there's a lot of things, that are similar between them, but I also think they complement each other pretty well. So having both is awesome if you can do it. Which you can, if you want to. You can do anything. Wink. Okay.
One thing I do want to touch on before we move forward is, friends and family ask me, like, how can I get into the laundromat industry? I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but one thing I didn't know before I bought a laundromat is, they are very capital intensive. You have to have a lot of upfront money. And I think if I would have known the amount of money that it would have cost me upfront, I would have never done it, because I would have been like, this is insane. Like, there's no way I could do this. So luckily I did not know, and I moved forward anyways. But I would say if I did know, I probably would have passed.
I think that's a really great point. Can you kind of elaborate on that? What are some of the capital expenses that you've encountered that maybe you didn't anticipate? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Oh, the first one is plumbing. To redo the plumbing, it's like $30,000. Yeah. I was like, for pipes? Am I missing something here? But I went and got 4 or 5 quotes, and everybody was around the same price. I'm like, okay, this is the price.
Yeah.
And if somebody would have told me it was $10,000 for a washing machine, I'm like, a washing machine? You're out of your mind. But it's just things like that. It's just very eye-opening, and you wouldn't know. I mean, I've visited laundromats before I actually ever thought about owning one, and I never in a million years thought, man, that's a $5,000 washer over there. Never crossed my mind. So it's just things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see how long they stay that much, but yeah, you can spend well over $10,000 on a washing machine easy these days. So you're right. It is crazy. And when I'm helping people buy a laundromat, whether I'm consulting with them or if I'm representing them as a broker, I always tell my clients, hey, let's pay a little bit of money and do a plumbing inspection. I know you did that too, but just to know what you're getting into, because plumbing is expensive. And if there's problems, you want to know about them beforehand, if at all possible. If a freak storm rolls in and blows out all your plumbing, then I guess you're out of luck. But it is crazy. It is crazy. And you're right. It is capital intensive, but you say, luckily. So does that mean you're not regretting it yet, or too soon to tell, or what? Where are you at?
No, even the 3 weeks that I was open, and like I said, only had like 5 working washers, and the amount of revenue I was making off of those 5 washers, I was like, okay, I got something here. It's not where I want to be, but I just need to fix it. So I never regretted it, but it was just a lot of, I guess, sticker shock and eye-opening revelations that I never would have thought of. Yeah.
No, and I think that's a really great point. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I do think that it's shocking, and there's a, the whole free laundromat thing is really popular. And, for the record, you can, take over a location for free, but there is nothing that's free out there, right?
And I don't subscribe to that. I see people that say, oh, I got this for free. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I guarantee you spent some money somewhere. And I would be willing to bet every dollar I will ever make that you spent some money somewhere. There's no such thing as free, especially in this business.
Yeah. And even if you didn't spend any money, you will be spending money because like you said, the machines are not cheap, and, having work done on the place, is not cheap. The plumbing's expensive. The electrical is expensive. You need a commercial electrician. Your boiler or tankless water heater is going to be expensive. Your card system is expensive. It can go on and on and on. So there's a lot of expense. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. And, just for anybody out there who's thinking about getting in, maybe you don't have a ton of capital, know that there are ways to do it. But a lot of times it means that you're going to have to put in a lot more sweat equity if you don't have the money to put into it. And sometimes it's not going to work. And I've seen that happen, unfortunately, quite a few times too. But going back to go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Once I'm actually done with the remodel, I would love to come back and come with raw numbers of what I actually spent, break down everything line by line, because one thing I've also found out about this, people are like very secretive in this business for whatever reason. It's like, oh, don't steal my idea, or don't do this. It's like, man, I had a top secret clearance and nobody was this secretive. What are you guys hiding? But I would love to just break down like every expense, everything that I have, because I personally have nothing to if it's going to help somebody, I will tell you, because what I'm making and what I'm spending, what's that going to matter to you?
Right.
But other than helping you.
Yeah. Well, that's the mindset that this industry needs desperately right now. It's a big part of why I started the podcast, is because there's not a lot of people out there who are willing to share that stuff. And, I was like, I know there's got to be some, so let's get them here and start to shift that culture of secrecy a little bit. And it's deeply ingrained in our industry. There's, price, secrecy throughout our industry and all kinds of different, arenas of our industry. And that's perpetuated, by manufacturers, that's perpetuated by the Coin Laundry Association, and others. And it doesn't help owners. It doesn't do anything good for owners. Right. So, but yeah, let's definitely do that. And we'll run through, what the real costs are, because I think that would be really helpful for people to know before they get into the business without enough money to get them over a hump if their pipes explode.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's talk about those 5 machines that you had working. Can you, if you can remember this far back, can you remember like what sizes they were and about how much the vend cost was, how much customers paid to do their laundry there?
Absolutely. So I keep on my phone, I started a little notes with laundromat notes, and I have all of that information right here in front of me.
Awesome.
Because I just
organized.
keep this type of stuff.
Yeah, you are not a natural laundromat owner here. You don't keep those kinds of things.
So when I first got there, I had 16 double stack Dexters. They were the older model, the kind of, I guess, almond color.
Mm-hmm.
So
dryers that we're talking about?
Dryers, yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
So most of those actually worked. There was 2 that were like in the corner burned out. I guess there was like a fire 3 years ago, and just kind of put some plastic over 2 of them and left them. I'm like, when did that happen? They're like, oh, about 4 years ago.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So those were 25 cents. So I had a Dexter T300 double loaders. So there was actually 9 there. 5 were broken. And the vend price on those were $2 for everything.
Okay.
Had a 4 Dexter 400s, thoroughbred 400s. 4 of those, 3 were broken. $275 vend price. Dexter T600s, 2 of those, $325. Dexter 900s, the mega loaders, 2 of those, $450.
Okay.
That's the vend price. So as you can see, most of the machines were broken.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And probably underpriced because so many of them were broken.
I was getting to that.
Yeah.
So I go down. I was like, man, this seems kind of cheap. So I go down. I have a laundromat, a huge laundromat, like probably a mile down the street from me. And I go in there. I'm like, man, all of my machines are underpriced by like $1.50. And then I go to another laundromat. I have another one maybe 2 miles from me. Same thing. I'm like, man, they're giving away washes over here.
Yeah.
So I increased the price by like 50 cents a machine, and the revenue probably doubled the next week just by doing that.
Yeah.
And I also found out that my first day there, hey, there's no hot water here. I'm like, what? You're charging people for hot water, but you don't have any. You're like, yeah, the attendant was like, yeah, the hot water heater's been broken for, I don't know, a year or two. So the previous owner was charging people for hot water, but actually no hot water. So obviously I fixed that.
Yeah.
But,
kind of classic mismanagement stuff, being underpriced, which is difficult, man. I think that's a difficult issue for a lot of owners and raising prices, but it's also when you're buying a new laundromat, I would say it's probably the number one way to add value to your laundromat immediately is, raise your prices up to, where they should be. If they're not there, like you said, you doubled almost your revenue just by raising it by 50 cents a machine. So,
right. And I have the actual numbers, and what I want to illustrate by giving these is, this is what the first week that I didn't really do anything to the second week, what was all I did was mop and clean. Mm-hmm. So the first week it was for washers, $440 and dryers, $220.
Okay.
2 weeks later, $725 for washers, $260 for dryers, and I added some vending machines, $135. So that's like 2.5 times or almost double from the first and the third week. And all I did was mop and clean.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds so simple, right? But it makes so much sense that people, number one, are going to be willing to pay a little bit more for laundry. I'm sure they were cheap because they knew that their laundromat was not as desirable. So they're saying, well, we'll just be cheaper than everybody else. So we'll get some customers that way, try to get more volume that way. But, attending to the basics of laundromat ownership, right? Keeping things clean, keeping things working, keeping hot water hot, I guess is, I guess you got to say that.
Having hot water, period.
Yeah. Right. Those kinds of things are simple. Those are the basics, but really they can take you quite a long ways, especially if you're buying, a quote unquote zombie mat, just by cleaning up and, adjusting pricing a little bit accordingly and taking care of customers. Right. Right.
Yeah. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make here. You don't have to be a genius to figure some of this stuff out. You just, what would I use is always the phrase that I kind of tell myself. Would I go in here and use X, or would I do this? If the answer is no, you probably have 100 other people. The answer is probably no too. So that's kind of how I guide myself in this journey.
Yeah. I think that that's a great way to think about it too, is think about your customers as people, right? Like, do they want to come to a dirty place to try to clean their clothes? And do they leave feeling clean, or do they leave feeling dirty, right? They're just regular people who want to clean their clothes and leave feeling clean, right?
Yeah. Another way I put it is, would you send your wife or your mom here? Yeah. Or would you have them do this? If you get an answer that's no, you should probably do some type of evaluation or fix that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you keep track of like turns per day at all?
No, not really turns per day, because like I said, I only had 7 machines there. So
right.
I don't think it was really worth the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just curious because it would have been interesting to hear how many times those machines were being used per day week 1 versus how many times per day those machines were being used week 3.
Right.
And if you were able to actually gain some new customers just by mopping up, that would have been interesting to know.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. And you said it was attended, right?
Right. So I had a lady, she was there probably for 12 hours a day, and another guy, he came in at night, basically to 3 hours at night to close down the place and mop and clean, I was told, but I don't think that was getting done.
Right.
So, but funny enough, I just take from my time in the Army and my time at my job. If people have proper leadership, they will do what they need to do. Like this guy at night, I never had an issue with him. He always swept, mopped. But I guess if you have an attentive owner, you're going to do what you're supposed to do. So quite honestly, I've never had a problem out of either one of them. But I always say people are only going to get away with what you let them get away with. So that's kind of the mindset. Yeah,
I like that. And I think that leadership part of it too is, I think it's a difficult one for a lot of laundromat owners too. And, we come from all kinds of backgrounds. I mean, you ran the world, I was in ministry. I mean, all kinds of different backgrounds, right? But, I think by and large, a lot of small business owners in general, we don't have a lot of leadership experience necessarily. And so, but again, kind of the basics of leadership is, let people know what you expect and, keep them accountable for what you expect. And that's kind of, when you boil it down, the essence of how to lead your attendants, right?
And I think caring goes a lot into that. I mean, if people see you care, of course they're going to care a little bit more. They're like, okay, this guy, he's just not here to collect money every week. He actually cares about what's going on in this place. So obviously that kind of ups the ante with them a little bit as well, because, hey, I got to step my game up or he's probably going to get rid of me.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that caring is contagious too. Right. And it's real easy for an employee to get complacent with any business. If the owner is basically outsourcing responsibilities to the employees, ownership responsibilities or management responsibilities to the employees, then it's real easy for them to get complacent because they're not going to care about your business as much as you should care about your business because it's not theirs. They don't get paid any more or any less to do a better or worse job.
Right. And I have a funny story about, complacency. So when I was first looking at this laundromat, and I went up there a couple of times, just to look around and do some laundry as a prospective customer. And the attendant, she kept going in this back room. Like, what the hell's in this back room? And she would disappear for 20 minutes at a time. I'm like, what's going on back there? Eventually, she finally went outside and she left the door open in this back room. And I kind of snuck back there and looked around, and eventually I figured out it's like the mechanical room. So the heating and water shutoffs and stuff, but she was back there smoking, right on top of the hot water heater, ashtray on top of the hot water heater. And she was just smoking cigarettes in the back. I'm like, you don't care about your life, do you? Yeah. Yeah. But then I found out the hot water heater wasn't working. So
right. Yeah.
It wasn't even on.
It hasn't been working for a year. Well, hopefully there's no gas leak or something because there's no pilot light.
Well, she definitely would have died already. Like a cigar bar in that place back there.
Oh, geez. That's so funny.
So I just say that to say this is what happens when you just leave people to their own devices and you think they're going to do the right thing. Even though most people are good-natured people, they're going to get comfortable with what they're doing and do things their way, which most likely probably doesn't align with your philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And I think, people tend to have a tendency towards complacency when they're not inspired by anything. And, to be honest, your typical laundromat is not a super inspiring place in and of itself to work, but it can be, right? If you're serving more and more customers, if you're part of a team that's growing something, you're getting more and more customers, or you build deep relationships as an attendant with customers, or you're working with an owner who's demonstrating that they care by not just taking care of you as an employee, but by reinvesting into the laundromat, or you're starting new services, that can be exciting, or there's a management role that's going to develop as a result that they have an opportunity to apply for, something like that. It can be inspiring, but if things are just kind of coasting along, then it's not that inspiring, and your attendants will, just because they're human, right?
Right.
They'll tend to get complacent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Last question in the down to business section that I have for you is, actually I have two more. I just lied. Sorry. Are you planning on doing pickup and delivery again?
I am, but I think it'll come probably after a few months once we get back open, and I want to establish like processes first for even just the wash and fold inside. Mm-hmm. And then I think it'll be a much better transition of doing pickup and delivery. So I do plan on doing it again. Okay.
I thought of another question while you were talking. Sorry. I was listening to you, but I was also thinking, are you keeping your same employees?
For now, yes. To be quite honest, I'm kind of torn on the lady that was there. She's a nice lady, but I think as I get more into this and more changes come, I think she's going to have a hard time adjusting. Yeah. And I've already seen that. So I personally don't think I'll even have to get rid of her. I think she'll probably leave on her own because it's too much. I can tell at times it's like, whoa, this guy's changing my life here.
Right.
So that's what I see. But the guy I have at night, he's awesome. He seems like he's motivated, was looking for that breath of fresh air to come in and, shake things up. So I kind of see both sides of the spectrum from both of my employees here.
Yeah.
And I think also when I bring in, new employees, because I think we're going to have the business there, I think that's also going to create some type of, thing with her where she's probably just going to transition herself out.
Yeah. Have you kept them employed while you're shut down, or how does that work? Do they go on?
Yeah, I've continued to pay them their weekly salary every week since I've been shut down.
Are you having them do anything, or they're just
sometimes I'll have them go up there if a contractor needs to get in or something like that. But just little stuff, or when I was shut down, if I needed, go up there and make sure the place isn't flooded or something. But no major stuff during the week. But I just couldn't, lay someone off during a pandemic and with everything else going on. It's money, but it's not enough money where I'm going to miss it, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'd rather give it to them and, try to build some type of loyalty as well, and keep you with some money in your pocket and not just out here with all this uncertainty we have going on now. So,
I think that mindset tells me enough about you to know you're on your way to ruling the world again, just from a different angle this time. So
gotta rule the world twice, just from a different industry.
You're like, I've already ruled the world once, so how can I make it a little more challenging? I'm gonna start in the laundromat industry and somehow weasel my way into ruling the world again. So
I have the uncanny ability to find anything that's remotely challenging. That's like, why are you doing this? I have that. It's just a gift that I have. I don't know where it came from, but I have it.
Yeah, but you know what? It is a gift, and I want you to hold on to that and keep following that, because that does make life exciting for sure.
It does.
Yeah. Well, okay, this was my actual last question for the down to business section is, do you have any future plans yet? I mean, I know you're really early in and you've been shut down and you're focused on getting this laundromat open. I know you're thinking about adding, fluff and fold and pick up and delivery at your location. Are you planning on just scaling up that way? Do you want to get more locations? Have you thought about any of that yet?
Yeah, I definitely want to get another location, probably within the next, I'd say 12 to 18 months. So even the first week I bought it, I was like, okay, the laundry industry I like it. I like it a lot. And I've always said, yes, I want another location. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'll have 100 like Ross, but I'm definitely thinking 5 to 10 is where I want to be. I don't know if I'll go above that, but that's kind of what I have in my mind.
Yeah. Well, Ross is still, I think he's on the upper end. He's got like 9, I think, but he's pretty aggressively buying more. So
yep,
he'll be at that 100 in no time. Luke, Williford, watch your back. All right. We have another section called Secret Sauce.
Listen up. It's the Secret Sauce.
And Secret Sauce is this. Do you have any tips in your vast 3 weeks of experience and change with the shutdown laundromat, do you have any tips for current laundromat owners? I mean, listen, not too many of us can say that you came in and doubled business. So maybe you got some real good tips for us, but any tips for laundromat owners that can help them improve their business?
I would say just don't start something and don't be a part of the community. You're in this community. You want people to come to your business and spend money there. Be involved in the community. Do barbecues or have a customer appreciation days or something. Just don't be the typical owner and investor. Just, hey, I'm coming to collect my money and I'm going back to the suburbs or whatever. Right. Stay in there, get to know people. That's one of the things that and all the time I did spend there over the 3 weeks I was open, is I got to know a lot of the customers, a lot of the regulars, and it was just enjoyable just to know people and know their story. And I think that kept people coming back, because it's like, oh, this guy, he's pretty cool. He's pretty interesting. I like him. So I'm going to come over there and, hey, let me see Shawn today. And, hey, what's going on? How's your wife? Or how was work the other night? So just things like that, just knowing people and being relatable, I guess, is what I would say. Just don't come in and go hide in your office. Get to know people.
Yeah, I like that advice. And I think that, when people know you and they see you around, and especially if you're the kind of owner that cares and that is, investing in that community by trying to improve the business continually. I always say that's the differentiator between a laundromat that's going to be thriving in 5 to 10 years and a laundromat that's going to be the new zombie mat in 5 to 10 years, is if the owner is continually reinvesting in that business, they're going to be thriving in 5 to 10 years. And it doesn't always have to be in big ways. It could be big ways or small ways. But reinvesting in that business and showing the community that you care, but also just being present and, getting to know people, have a conversation with people, ask them what they like, what they don't like about the laundromat, talk to them about things that are going on in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. People really respond to that and connect with that. And that builds a lot of loyalty, more than most loyalty programs do, actually, right. Those relationships.
It kind of just boils down to good customer service. You made me think of a story where I was in there one day and the lady, she used like an entire bottle of soap. So she still had soap on her clothes. And her and the attendant were kind of, getting into a tiff, and I was just kind of interjecting. I was like, just give her the money, let her redo her clothes. And the attendant kind of looked at me like, what are you doing? You're giving away money. You're going to be giving away a lot of money if you keep doing that. I'm like, $2? Like, is that really going to change my life? But that's going to make her keep coming back, because it's like, oh, this guy gave me $2 to redo my laundry. So just building that loyalty and rapport with customers is what you need to do.
Yep. And taking that opportunity to do, I mean, it's treating people like they're human, right? And just
right, exactly.
Basic human kindness. And there are people who will try to take advantage of that, but you'll find out who those people are.
Yeah. I mean, in the first week, you get your usual suspects, or they just come in here, they're looking for a handout, but they always present themselves very early in the relationship. So they're easy to figure out.
Yep. Awesome secret sauce. We have another section called Pro Tips. And Pro Tips is for maybe the people who are trying to buy their first laundromat. Do you have any tips for someone before they buy their first laundromat that you feel like they should know about?
Yeah, if I would say find someone that has a laundromat already. That is the best pro tip I can give you, because what you think you know, what you think you've read in these guru posts and forums, it is not going to scratch the surface of what you're going to find when you actually walk through the door and start dealing with the laundromat. So I wish I would have had a mentor of someone, even a consultant, someone that I can just say, hey, I'm going to take you to this location and you own 10 laundromats or 2 or whatever, and tell me what you see and what I need to look out for and aid me in my negotiation process of this place.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you literally have to pay someone to do that, that will be the best money that you will ever spend. I guarantee you.
Yeah. I mean, I've shared my story on here before, and if I could go back and pay somebody $10,000 to tell me not to buy the first laundromat when I bought it, I would do it, because I literally lost tens of thousands of dollars at that first location. And I mean, I think not that you should go out and drop 10 grand on a consultant, but the point is, don't make an investment that's going to be a pretty big investment, even for a small laundromat. Don't invest that money on your own. It reminds me of The Richest Man in Babylon, which is one of my favorite books, which is a book on finance, basically. And a guy's teaching another guy how to build wealth. And he first teaches him that he needs to, set aside some of his money to invest it. And he asks him after a year where he invested it. And he had lent it out to, I think, a brick maker to go travel to a different country and buy some jewels. Right. And he's like, you're a fool. Your money's gone. Right. Because you didn't talk to the people who know about the thing you're trying to do. Right. You're not partnering with the right people. He's a brick maker. He doesn't know about jewels, and he's going to get ripped off, and he does get ripped off. And there's a couple other similar stories like that in that book. But the point being is, when you are making an investment, do it with people who know what they're doing.
Right.
Especially in this industry where there's, secrecy and pitfalls everywhere you look, you got to have somebody who can help you navigate that. So awesome pro tip there.
Yeah, I think I would have taken my own advice if, quite honestly, I paid under $100 grand for my laundromat.
Mm-hmm.
And I see laundromats regularly going for $150, $250, $550. So if I'm going to spend that type of money, I think I would have been much more engaged on probably everything there is to know about laundromats. And I would have taken my own advice, but quite honestly, I was like, okay, I know I can get my money back out of this thing, so I can take this risk without knowing as much information as I needed to know. Yeah.
And I mean, there's actually a pro tip in that also, where, I can't tell you how many coaching clients I've talked to who, been like, I've been thinking about buying a laundromat for years, and, or 10 years even. I mean, I think I want to say the longest somebody had told me was, multiple decades that they've been thinking about buying a laundromat, but never did it. Right. And so, what I like about what you just said is that you learned enough of what you thought you needed to learn to be able to make a decision. And once you made the decision, you just pulled the trigger. Right. And so there is a balance in there between how, learning and research and, taking action. And the point of talking to somebody who knows about the industry is to shortcut the learning. So you don't have to go through all the learning process on your own, shortcut the learning so that you can get to the action. And the action is where the money's made, right?
Right.
Not in the learning.
Yep.
Love that. Okay, we have another section called recommended resources. And just out of curiosity, do you have any resources that you'd recommend to people to either, help their businesses grow or to help themselves grow personally?
My biggest resource has been the Laundromat Owners Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned more from that group than I, once again, have learned watching YouTube videos, reading guru posts and things like that. These people are real owners who are in the business day to day and run into the same problems you will eventually run into on a daily basis. So I cannot recommend that group enough. It's just things about pricing strategies and equipment makes and models and what works here and just things like you would never think of that people post questions about. It's been very eye-opening to me to just hear what other people have to say, especially in different parts of the country, or even the world. There's people there from Australia and India with laundromats. It's just a fantastic resource just to pick other people's brains without actually directly picking their brain.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. I'll link to that for anybody who wants to join in there. And again, just, let Ross know that I sent you, and, you'll probably get showered with gifts and praise and all of that. Not really, but
the secret passphrase is wrecked van.
Yeah. No, but it's an awesome group, and it's super, super valuable. Can I put you on the spot with the resources real quick? Just because, and if you don't have anything, that's totally fine. But we talked about leadership earlier, and I'm wondering if you have any, I don't know, books or resources, I don't know, YouTube channel or whatever, on the leadership topic that might be helpful for people who want to learn a little more about leadership. Do you have a favorite?
I don't have a favorite, but being a military guy, I read a lot of books on, generals and military strategies and old wars and things like that. And I think just from that, how those guys survived with essentially nothing as far as resources. Mm-hmm. Like I watched a documentary on Grant. It was a DVD, and that dude is amazing. And the funny part is he was actually a drunk his entire time, but he led the country in a war. So it doesn't matter what I say that to say, it doesn't matter what you have going on personally. If you're a good leader, it will show no matter what else is going on in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I read a book. It was a super long book. Can't remember how long. It was super long, but on Grant. And there's just lessons galore from that guy. And yeah, I think you make a good point. That we all struggle with whatever we struggle with personally, but he was still able to do great things, lead us, in a war and do it phenomenally. And, I think we can do some of the same things, right? Maybe not in a war, but in whatever field that we're in, that leadership lessons can translate. So, yeah.
I am also a big political junkie. Another tidbit about me, I ran for Congress a couple of years ago, Texas 6th Congressional District.
For you, that's kind of a step down, to be honest, but that's okay. Okay. It's humble. That's a very humble position for you. But go ahead. Sorry.
So I read Joe Biden's book, Promise Me, Dad. It was a very good book. It's not really, I think most politicians' books are. He just talks about, himself, his family, and things like that. And I think that the latest book I've read, that would be a good recommendation. It's not, partisan one side or the other. It's just a guy talking about his life and his experiences and his family.
Yeah, cool. I'll check that one out. I haven't read that one. Are you going to run again?
I've thought about it, but it's just the political landscape now. I'm not really a fan. It's just two extremes on both sides. And that's not the point of serving in a position. You're supposed to help out your country and your people and not pander to one extreme or the other. So I am not a fan of the current political climate, and I have no plans to enter into it at this point.
Well, for what it's worth, I think we probably need more people with that mindset in our political system. So,
but the funny thing is, people with my mindset don't get votes because I'm not extreme enough. So
it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. Well, hey,
that's another podcast for my experiences in running for Congress.
That would actually be a good podcast.
Oh, it's full of gems. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I bet so.
And I would have to, I just hate to bring up, a millennial black guy running as a Republican in Texas. That's how I will preface the conversation. It is very interesting.
I mean, it sounds perfect. I mean, what's not extreme about that? That sounds great. No matter what your beliefs are, your political beliefs.
Very eye-opening from all sides of my life. I don't think I've ever, even working at the White House, I have never experienced anything quite what I experienced in the 5 or 6 months of running for office than I did. I think it changed my life. I think it's safe to say that.
Listen, I think you and I need to do a spinoff podcast, maybe a short series podcast where we just talk about your whole experience with that. Because I mean, that's pretty interesting. I bet it was a pretty fascinating story.
It was. If people understood how their what it takes to get into office, they would probably hate every politician they ever ran in contact with.
Yeah.
Because politicians are better actors than anybody you will ever see in Hollywood that you could ever imagine. You think The Rock is a great actor? No. Look at your local politician. They are much better, I can guarantee.
Okay, first of all, I can't allow you to insult Brad Pitt like that. Second of all, you're probably right.
Brad Pitt.
And yeah, no, I'm serious. We need to talk. Okay, we need to talk offline and figure out how we can get this serious. I think people would love to hear your experience with that. So
I would love to tell it. So let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, stay tuned for this other podcast that we're going to make happen. It's going to be incredible. Don't laugh. I'm serious. Shawn, AKA Ruler of the World. I appreciate you, man. And I'm really, really grateful that you came on to share your story. And I cannot wait to hear, when you fling open the doors again, how it goes and if your wife actually helps you out or not. And all the good stuff that you're going to be learning. But thank you for coming on and sharing your story here. And really, really appreciate it. It was super, not just an awesome story with great lessons in there, but you're just a good dude and really, really appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you having me on, Jordan. It was great. I was been looking forward to this all week. I'm sorry we couldn't connect, but the world was melting around me at work, so I had to deal with all that crap. But I'm glad we actually got together and got this done because I just like telling my story because I know it's very different from your typical laundromat experience. So the more information we can get out there, the more good people we can get in this industry. I think it'll help everybody. I agree. And I have never had a former world ruler on here before. You're the first. I get that a lot. Yeah. Do you? I mean, I imagine. So Alexander the Great is next if he buys a laundromat. So he'll be on there next. Well, hey, thanks, man. And really appreciate it. And I'm serious. Let's do this other podcast where you tell your experience about, running for Congress. I think I am definitely down for that. I am a 100% political junkie. So if we could talk politics, you're right in my wheelhouse. I can talk anything with anybody, so it'll be great. I believe it. It'll be great. All right, man. Well, let's connect soon.
All right, what an awesome episode with Shawn. Is such a cool guy. He's got an interesting history and an interesting path, like most of us do, leading him to laundromat ownership. So very, very cool about that. And man, cannot wait to get an update on how everything is going for him. Maybe a year or so down the line, but sounds like he is on the right track, man. I loved a lot of what he had to say and a lot of his mindset stuff. Let me just remind you that every episode, I want you to try to pick one thing that you can put into action. Remember, action is what paves the way to success. You can learn all you want. You can listen to the stories. You can even meet the people. But if you're not taking the action, you're never going to accomplish your goals. So pick something, anything from this episode and every episode that you listen to. Put it into action, put it to work, make it a habit to be doing things to help you achieve your goals. So if your goal is to own a laundromat, be doing things that are going to move you closer to that goal. If your goal is to optimize your laundromat, be doing things that will help you optimize your laundromat. If your goal is to scale your laundromat business, maybe buy more, maybe move into more the service side of laundry, whatever the case may be doing things to help you get to that goal. All right. Well, listen, this was incredible. As always, thank you guys for joining me. We will see you on the forums. We'll see you at the webinar with Mike Kelly of AtmosphereTV on Thursday. We will see you, I don't know, at the next on YouTube, maybe. We'll see you at the next podcast episode. We'll see you wherever you find us. We're all over the place. Cannot wait to hang out with you some more. Peace.